Alright, how's everybody doing this evening? Back again with another video for you guys and gals. And tonight what I have for everyone is my versus / comparison video between the LG V30 and the Samsung Galaxy S8. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to compare and contrast the similarities and differences between both of these devices, and then by the end of the video I'm going to make an overall recommendation as to which device I think you should pick up over the other. Alright, that being said, without further ado, let's jump into this video. Now, starting off, the first thing I want to talk about with you guys and gals is the overall build quality and design of both of these devices. Now, from a build quality and design standpoint, both of these devices are extremely similar. They're both made out of glass on the front and the back with a metal mid-frame, okay? In particular, they're both made out of Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and Gorilla Glass 5 on the back, alright? So as you can see, they both have that premium glass material on the front and the back. Alright, so in my opinion, in terms of the overall build quality and design, I feel as though both LG and Samsung did a great job. Overall, both devices have a nice balanced weight. They feel very good in the hands, so the overall build quality and design is top notch, at least in my opinion, when we talk about both these devices. So good job Samsung and good job LG. Alright, so that's a tie in that category if y'all didn't realize that. Next, the next thing I want to talk about between both of these devices are the displays. Now display wise, we have two very similar devices yet different, okay? And y'all are gonna notice that in a second here, alright? So, display wise, let me light this display up first. When we talk about the display on these devices, we have two very different display technologies. Now, on the Samsung device, we have a 5.8 inch Super AMOLED display, okay? That means, and it has a screen density of about 570 pixels per inch. And the overall resolution is 2960 by 1440p, so greater than quad HD resolution or 2K resolution, alright? Whereas over here on the LG device, we have a POLED quad HD display or 2K display in the 6-inch variety here, and this one has an overall screen density of 537 pixels per inch and a resolution of 2880 by 1440p. Alright? And that was just the raw specs for you guys and gals that like to know the actual numbers. Now, let's talk about these displays in terms of daily usage. Now, in terms of the daily usage aspects when it comes to these displays, both LG and Samsung have done a great job in my opinion. Now, when I use these outdoors in direct sunlight, I typically keep them at about 80% brightness. When I'm indoors, they're typically at about a little bit at 40% or a little bit over. Alright, so indoors I keep them at 40%. Outdoors I keep them at 80%, and I gotta say I've had no issues with either of the displays on these devices. Now, I apologize if they look a little bit yellow in the video. It is nighttime, and I do have auto night mode turned on both of these devices. Alright? So if y'all notice that little yellow hue, that's because the night mode is enabled. But in regards to the displays, both these displays are top notch, so this is another category where I'm going to have to give it a tie. Good job Samsung, good job LG. This really comes down to personal preference. If I had to say there was a major difference about these two displays, that is the fact that these are both curved displays, and I would say the curve is more pronounced on the Samsung device than it is on the LG device. Let me show you here. So they're both curved, but the LG device has a more subtle curve, right? So it's a little bit more flat than the Samsung device. The Samsung device has the more pronounced curve, all right? And that's probably, aside from the screen size, that's probably the big major difference between these two displays. But overall, in my opinion, both these displays are top notch. So that really comes down to personal preference. So yet again, in the display category, your boy is going to call it a tie. Really good displays on either of these devices. Up next now, the next thing I want to talk about with you guys and gals is we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the hardware and the software on these two devices. We're going to start off with the hardware first, okay? And when we talk about the hardware on both of these devices, you're going to see a lot of similarities and a few big key differences, okay? Now, let's get ready and let's dive in. Now, hardware-wise, both of these devices are packing 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of onboard storage. Both of these devices support micro SD card expansion. Both devices also have USB Type-C, now I apologize for the lighting, and dedicated 3.5 millimeter headphone jacks and bottom firing speakers, okay? Now, where they differ is that the headphone jack is on the bottom on the Samsung device, and it is on the top on the LG device, all right? Diving deeper into more hardware now, both of these devices have really good rear-facing cameras, but where they differ is the Samsung device has a single rear-firing 12-megapixel sensor, whereas the LG device has a dual camera setup, a 16-megapixel primary sensor, and a 13-megapixel ultra-wide sensor. All right? Both of these devices have fingerprint sensors, but as you can see, they're in vastly different locations. So the Samsung fingerprint sensor is in the upper right next to the camera sensor, but it still works really, really well. So let me demonstrate. So all you have to do is tap it because they're always active capacitive sensors. So they're always on. You just have to drop your finger on it and it opens right up. Okay? And yes, these are both active sensors and they both work accordingly. But in my opinion, I prefer the placement on the LG device. This is where naturally my finger falls. It's kind of a stretch to get up to the fingerprint sensor on the Samsung device. So that's one thing that I want to point out. But you can see both fingerprint sensors are very fast and responsive. And another neat thing about the LG device is that that fingerprint sensor also doubles as your power button. So in most cases, all you have to do is tap, but if you're already pressing the power button, it opens up even faster as you see there, okay? Now, diving back into the hardware, both of the cameras on these devices, when we talk about the rear primary sensors, are capable of recording up to 4K video, 1080p 60, 1080p 30, and 720p 120 frames per second slow motion and 240 frames per second slow motion. All right. Now, the big major difference is that the LG device can do that with the wide angle sensor, but it cannot record 240 frames per second slow motion with the wide angle sensor. The wide angle sensor maxes out at 120 frames per second slow motion in 720p. All right. Good. And they both have really fast focus, but the LG device has phase detection autofocus, as does the Samsung device, but the LG device incorporates laser autofocus as well. All right? Both these devices, in terms of hardware, support quick charging. The LG device supports quick charging 3.0, Qualcomm Quick Charge 3.0, and the Samsung device supports Samsung Adaptive Quick Charge, which is built on top of Quick Charge 2.0, so Qualcomm Quick Charge 2.0. Just wanted to point that out there. Both of these devices have wireless charging and fast wireless charging at that, 10 watts. fast wireless charging. Alright, now the Samsung device has a 3000 milliamp hour battery inside, and the LG device has a 3300 milliamp hour battery inside. Alright, just so y'all know some of the differences there. Now, flipping both of these devices to the front, up front, dead center here across the top, both devices have front-facing cameras. Now, the difference in these front-facing cameras is that the LG front-facing camera is 5 megapixels and it maxes out at a maximum recording resolution of 1080p at 30 frames per second. There's no slow motion with the front-facing camera, none of that. But you do get portrait mode with the front-facing camera on the LG device, where you don't get it on the rear-facing cameras of the LG device. Whereas on the Samsung device, the front-facing camera is an 8 megapixel sensor, and you have the ability to record up to 2K resolution video, and you can also record slow motion with the front-facing 8 megapixel sensor on the Samsung device. So that's another major difference there. Alright? Now, diving a little bit deeper into the hardware, both of these devices are waterproof, IP68 water and dust proof, which means they can get fully submerged in water up to 1 meter for 30 minutes, so about 3 feet, okay? The difference here is the LG device is military spec 810G, so it's supposedly drop resistant and shatterproof, but who are we kidding? These are glass devices. One good drop could break both of these bad boys. So don't let everything on paper fool you. Case up if you're clumsy. Screen protector up if you know that you do a lot of face drops. You definitely need to do that. Alright? But that's a major difference there. Alright. Both of these devices have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 octa-core processor and the Adreno 540 GPU. So they both have flagship chipsets inside. Alrighty. Another hardware difference, oh man, I gotta string these sentences together better. Another hardware difference is that the Samsung device supports a multicolored LED up top for notifications. So you got a multicolored notification light, whereas the LG device does not have that, okay? Also, the Samsung device has an iris scanner for better security with your face unlock, whereas the LG device just has the 2D face unlock, okay? But the LG device does have the double tap to wake and sleep, so you can easily wake it up, scan for your face, and unlock the device, whereas you kind of have to press and hold 3D touch style, and then you swipe up and scan for your face or input your password or PIN on the Samsung device. So that is a difference there. You get more security over here, but it's a little bit faster and more convenient over here. Just wanted to point out those hardware differences. Alright, now I believe that about does it for the hardware. Oh, one thing that I forgot to mention is that the LG device also comes in a Plus variant, which doubles the storage from 64 gigabytes to 128 gigabytes. The Samsung device only has a 64 gigabyte variant. Okay? Just wanted to point that out. Alright. Now that truly does it for the hardware on both of these devices. Now let's get into the software on both of these devices. And this is where we have a bunch of similarities, but we also have a bunch of differences as well. Alright? Now, in regards to the software, both of these devices are running on Android 8.0 Oreo, okay? But they're doing it with their respective skins on top. Let me close that out. We don't need to have that open right now. Boom. Don't need no distractions, okay? So the Samsung device is running Oreo with the Samsung Experience 9 interface on top, whereas the LG device is running Oreo with the LG UX 6 on top. But essentially, they both pretty much have the same feature set give or take a feature or two. Now, when we talk about the differences in feature set, there's probably only 3 major differences when we talk about the features, all right? The Samsung device gives you the ability to pair up apps to launch simultaneously. The LG device does not. The Samsung device also has a dedicated assistant in the Bixby Assistant, whereas on the LG device, you're stuck using the Google Now. Now, some people may not see that as a downside, but there are a few things that you can do with Bixby that you can't do with Google Now. So that is a difference. I had to point it out. Other than that, other than the overall difference in look, that about does it for the differences between these softwares. Other than the difference in look and the overall way you interact with the interface as you glide through the device, this is a very similar experience across the board. That being said, in regards to the software and daily performance, both of these devices perform extremely well. But they do, however, suffer from Android's main issues. So, with a bunch of apps open in the background, I would say anything over 17 apps to 21 apps, depending on the amount of RAM that the app takes up from the system, you will start to see a bunch of app hiccups, a bunch of app refreshes, and maybe an app crash or two. Okay? And that more has to do with Android optimization, not so much the skin that these manufacturers put over top. Alright? Just wanted to point that out. Now, that being said, in regards to the software, who wins what? Both the software experiences are good, but I have to give the win in the software department to the Samsung device. Not only did Samsung manage to pack in a bunch of useful features, but they did it while also being able to implement a very smooth and fluid user experience that's very intuitive and easy to navigate. Whereas the LG interface, while it does have its features, it's a little clunky to navigate, and getting used to it, it did take me a while to get used to it, because as you can see, it's kind of a swipe down to get to your notification shade here, and everything from here is like a swipe up and down gesture. But before I organized my app drawer, it was a swipe left and right to do this. So you go from one way of doing things to another way of doing things, and it kind of throws you off. So overall, I would say the interfaces and the software are good on both, but the Samsung experience here is a lot more intuitive and easy to use over the LG experience. In my opinion, LG needs to take their software back to the drawing board and try to do things a little differently. But that being said, that pretty much does it for the hardware and software. So hardware-wise, I would call it a tie. Software-wise, we're giving the W to the Samsung Galaxy S8. Alright, next thing I want to talk about with you guys and gals now is the overall Wi-Fi and the Wi-Fi performance. Now, Wi-Fi-wise, both of these devices are packing the exact same Wi-Fi loadout. So they both have Wi-Fi 802.11, BGNN, and AC. What does that mean? They both have support for your 2.4 gigahertz band Wi-Fi and your 5 gigahertz band Wi-Fi respectively, as long as you have a router and or modem that could take advantage of either of those two bands, you should be good to go. Now I just want to pull up a real quick YouTube video, and this YouTube video will also double as a speaker demonstration, so y'all will get a nice good audio sample. Now, in the interest of speed, I've already maxed out the volume on both, and we got some nice copyright-free music here pulled up on both. Alright, and one thing that I want to reiterate is that both these devices have bottom-firing speakers. Now I'm going to let it play. We're going to go through the Wi-Fi performance test, and then I'm going to give y'all my opinions on the overall speaker quality and speaker placement. So starting off, let's start with the LG device. So let's bring this up front and center here. And let's do this. Angle the camera down and let's push play. Max volume. Here we go. Alright, let's go through the video now and check the Wi-Fi performance. Alright, so that's the LG V30. Now let's do the same test with the Samsung Galaxy S8. So let's slide this to the back. Let's bring this to the front. And let's run the test one more time. Here we go. Alright, let's scrub through the video, check the overall Wi-Fi performance. Okay, so real quick Wi-Fi performance test, real quick speaker test as well. Alright, so as y'all can see, the overall Wi-Fi performance between both of these devices is top notch. Now, how do I feel about the overall speakers on these devices? Let's get into that. Okay, now speaker wise, when we talk about both of these devices, I have to say, when it comes to the overall quality and the loudness of the speakers, both of these speakers do a good job. However, both of them are lacking in the bass department, and at lower volumes, like 50% or lower, both speakers are actually extremely quiet. The speakers on both of these devices, in my opinion, don't actually come alive till you get to about 80% and up. Okay, so you're really gonna have to keep these the volume on these speakers closer to max if you want to take advantage of the onboard speakers on these devices. That being said, when we talk about overall placement, I'm not a big fan of the placement of the speakers on either of these devices. They're bottom firing, and we all know what bottom firing speakers mean. That means that it's very easy to muffle the speakers. Okay, just by holding it in my hand here, you see it's kind of easily muffled. Maybe I'm watching a video, and again, it's very easy to muffle the speakers. So if you want to get good sound, you can end up engaging in that young cupping maneuver to try and angle that sound, get it to bounce off your hand, and get it facing more towards you. And this is the main problem with bottom firing speakers, and one of the big reasons why I don't like bottom firing speakers. In my experience, or in my opinion, and I've also experienced as well, all smart devices need to have front firing speakers. If you have front firing speakers on your device, it's harder to muffle and you get a much more clearer and good sound, similar to what's on my Moto X Pure Edition right here. Front firing, dual firing speakers, really good speakers on that device. Okay, can't go wrong with front firing speakers. So in regards to the overall sound quality and volume, these speakers are good. In regards to the bass, it's non-existent. In regards to the speaker placement, they're both holding L's. Now, let's keep it moving. So that was a tie for the overall speaker performance and 2 L's for the overall speaker placement. So nobody won in the placement category. Now we're going to move on. The next thing I want to talk about with you guys and gals now is the overall LTE band supported in both of these devices. Now, one thing that I want to mention before we talk about the band supported in both of these devices is that this device y'all see, the Samsung Galaxy S8, is the G950U globally unlocked variant of the device. So that means that I have all the bands for all the major carriers in the United States and all the GSM carriers, and I have all the bands for all the GSM carriers abroad. Okay, so this is a globally unlocked device. Whereas on your LG device here, this is the H932, the T-Mobile variant of the LG V30. So this bad boy only has the T-Mobile bands. Okay? That being said, I'm going to call the band support on both of these devices a tie because they both have globally unlocked models which support all the bands for your major carriers and all the bands for your GSM carriers abroad. So based on that, and y'all already know, if I had to make a recommendation, I always say go globally unlocked because then you got customer freedom and you can go to whatever carrier your heart desires and your device is just going to work. So in my opinion, companies need to stop locking down their devices to GSM only or CDMA only and just come out with globally unlocked devices, okay? Give your customers the choice, all right? That's just my opinion, just my 2 cents. So based on the fact that both of these devices have globally unlocked models, I'm going to call it a tie, all right? Now let me give y'all a nice close-up of the bands. And just make sure that your carrier supports these bands here, and you should be good to go. Alright? Feel free to pause and look at that for yourself. Now, if it's unclear in playback, I'll throw up the screenshot in post, so y'all know exactly what the bands supported are on these 2 devices. So that was the S8, and here is the V30. Okay? Bam. Alright. Now, let's keep it moving. So the overall band supported and LTE band supported category is a tie yet again. Up next now, the next thing I want to talk about with you guys and gals is the overall Bluetooth performance on both of these devices. So let's pull this up. Alright, and let's pull it up over here. And let's turn it on. Alright, now, in regards to the Bluetooth on both of these devices support Bluetooth 5.0. Alright, so they're both packing the exact same Bluetooth technology on board. And I have to say, in regards to the overall Bluetooth performance, both of these devices pretty much perform exactly the same, and I've had no issues with the Bluetooth. That being said, I do have to give the W in the Bluetooth performance to the Samsung Galaxy S8 because it incorporates a dual audio feature, which allows you to pair up more than one device at a time and stream the audio to said device. So this is similar to something that you would do with a pair of Bluetooth headphones or a Bluetooth speaker, but where it differs is that if that functionality comes in your Bluetooth headphone or speaker, it's typically supported by the speaker itself. This version of it here is supported strictly based off of the device. So this is built directly into the Samsung Galaxy S8. And that's the only reason why the S8 will get the W in regards to the overall Bluetooth performance. Other than that, if you don't use that sort of thing, then you can call this category another tie, because the Bluetooth on both of these devices performs exactly the same, which is really, really good. Next, let's dive into one of the more important categories and something that I'm very, very passionate about when I'm looking at making a device my daily driver. And any device that I'm trying to make my daily driver has to have a really good GPS. And I'm very happy to report that the GPS performance coming out of both of these devices is top notch. Top notch indeed. And I didn't have any issues with the onboard GPS on either of these devices. It locked on within seconds, and turn-by-turn navigation or anything that took advantage of the onboard GPS module worked without issue. So, yet again, say it with me, we got another tie in the GPS performance category. Alright, up next now, let's talk about another important section when it comes to smartphones or smart devices in general with this capability. Let's talk about the overall call quality with the built-in receivers and the onboard speakers. Alright, now, both of these devices perform exactly the same in the call quality through the onboard receivers, and exactly the same, at least to my ear, through the built-in speakers. But, and this is a big but, I have to give the Samsung S8 the win in this category because it supports a speaker boosting function, which is built directly into the software of the dialer itself. Alright? I don't want to put anybody's information on blast too much, and I think I did by accident, so y'all may see a gray portion in this video somewhere, but take my word for it, it has a built-in speaker boost function when you're using the dialer for making phone calls or speakerphone calls, and that really does make a difference. So it's based on that one feature, which is built into the hardware and software, why I have to give the Samsung Galaxy S8 the win in regards to the overall call quality and speaker call quality category. Alright? Other than that, if y'all don't think there's a difference between the two and y'all don't use that category, that function, then guess what? Y'all can call this category another tie as well. Alright? Now, let's keep it moving. Up next now, let's talk about the onboard the onboard cameras on both of these devices. Now, in the interest of speed, I'm just going to talk to y'all about how I feel these cameras perform in the different scenarios and on a day-to-day basis. If y'all want a more in-depth look at the camera performance on either of these devices, I've done separate dedicated camera videos on each of these devices, which I'll link up in the cards, and I'll link it down below in the video description. So if y'all want to check out the video samples in the different lighting scenarios, y'all want to check out the photo samples in the same thing, audio samples, so on and so forth, all that stuff is linked up down below in the video description, and check out the cards. Alright, that being said, when we talk about the onboard cameras on either of these devices, whether it is with the front or the rear facing cameras, both of these devices, in my opinion, take some really, really good photos. Alright? Now, talking about the photo experience from just the auto mode aspects, you know, just you leave the camera in auto, you launch it, you snap a picture, they take some really good photos. Okay? Focus is really fast between the both of these, but I do have to give the slight edge in the focusing category to the Samsung Galaxy S8. In my opinion, after using the LG V30 for almost a month, it's like roughly 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks, I noticed that the focusing on the LG V30 is not as fast. And at times, I don't know if you guys and gals noticed it, but if you watch some of my videos that I recorded with the V30, parts of the video that I didn't want to be out of focus were out of focus. And I did struggle at times to get the focus exactly the way I wanted it. So, I don't know if it's just the unit I have or the focusing speed is slow, but I did notice a difference in the focusing speed. So that is a little ding for the LG V30. But other than that, the photos that come out of either of these devices are top notch. Now, if we're diving a little bit deeper and we're talking about using the Pro mode that's on board with either of these devices, you are again able to take some really good photos with either of these devices. That being said, I do have to give the W in regards to the Pro mode for photos to the LG V30. There's just so much more you could do with the Pro mode on the V30 as opposed to the Pro mode on the S8. Okay? That being said, jumping over to the video aspects of the cameras, again, both of these cameras do a really great job in regards to the video. Again, aside from the focusing issue that I see on the V30, it's just kind of slow, and you may need to tap it an extra time to really line up that focus. Alright, other than that, the overall video experience is really good between the both of these. Now, both of these devices in their current software implementations do support Pro mode for video. But in that aspect, yet again, I have to give the W for the Pro mode while in video to the LG V30. The Pro mode for the photo or the video on the LG V30 is second to none. Okay? Just wanted to point that out. Alright? And actually, if you're rocking an S8 and you take the latest update, which brings you up to the Samsung One UI, then you're going to lose the Pro mode for video on your S8. That's one of the reasons why I downgraded from the Samsung One UI back to the Samsung Experience 9.0. That and the fact that if you upgrade your Samsung device to One UI, you do lose the dual capture functionality on the camera. Okay? And what the dual capture functionality does right there, now I apologize for a little out of focus, is it allows you to take photos and videos with the front-facing and rear-facing cameras at the same time. So that is a one-up positive that the cameras on the S8 have over the V30. The V30 allows you to do something similar, but not for the same amount of time and not in the same way. Alright? But, you know, that is what it is. Now, talking about the overall audio that these devices are able to capture while in video, if you pick up either of these devices and you want to take some really good audio or catch an audio recording, you're going to take some really good audio with either of these. So the audio being able to be picked up by either of these devices is top notch. So, when it comes to the cameras, I'm going to have to call it a dead tie. And it really comes down to personal preference and which features you think you're going to be best be able to take advantage of on either of these devices. Okay? Now, moving on, this will be the portion of the video where I talk about the gaming performance. Now, I've already done separate dedicated gaming performance videos, which again, I'll link up in the cards and I'll throw it down below in the video description. And now, this is a versus/comparison video, so if you feel like there's anything that I missed in this video, I'll also have the full dedicated reviews for each of these devices linked up down below in the video description as well. But that being said, one thing that I want to reiterate is that both of these devices have the exact same chipset loadout. So the Snapdragon 835 octa-core processor and the Adreno 540 GPU. The 530 is on the Snapdragon 821. My mistake. Sorry, y'all. And in regards to the overall gaming performance, both of these devices performed exactly the same. Okay? They both had no issues when it came to dealing with any type of game that I threw at them. And if you check out the gaming performance video, I went from least graphic intensive games to most graphic intensive games, and there was no hiccups and or stutters or performance dips on either of these devices. But I did notice that they did get really warm after extended gameplay sessions of about 30 minutes to an hour. Both these devices did get warm around the camera module and fingerprint sensor area. Okay, but the performance overall did not dip at any point. So the overall gaming performance on these is top notch. Next, talking about the benchmark performance, both of these devices performed again about the same. Now I did notice a difference in the multitasking benchmark between the two, but again, it falls in right about that margin of error because they're running the exact same chipset. But that being said, if y'all do want to take a look at the synthetic benchmark numbers, feel free to check out the links to my full reviews on either of these devices, which will again be linked up down below in the video description. But they did perform really, really good. I can't complain. And today, at this day and age, benchmarks mean absolutely nothing. What really matters is the right combination of hardware and software, which equates to an overall smooth and fluid user experience, which I'm happy to report both of these devices deliver in spades, okay? But if you do want to check that out, hit up the links down below in the video description. Next, let's talk about the overall battery life and the overall charge times. Now, one thing that I want to let you guys know before I dive into my results here is that these are both used devices, okay? So if I let y'all see the health, you can see the V30 is down to 91% of overall battery health, and the Samsung Galaxy S8, if I show you the same health meter, is down to 92%, okay? So that's one thing that I want to point out before we talk about my results. Another thing that I want to point out before we talk about my results is that I am an extremely heavy user, and anything that I can do from my smartphone, I will do from my smartphone. Due to the fact that everybody uses their devices differently, your guys' results may vary. I just want to throw that one out there. Now, that being said, and I'll be sure to have the screenshots up in post for you guys and gals to check out. When we talk about the overall battery life between these two devices, I found that they were almost exactly the same. Now, with my style of heavy usage, I did have to charge them both one additional time throughout the day. Now, I have been using these devices side by side, along with my Google Pixel XL here for the past month. Okay? So these three devices have been my main go-to devices. And as I've said, with my style of heavy usage, I have to charge them one additional time. So about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 6 o'clock at night during some days. But they do need that extra additional charge to make it through a full 24-hour cycle the way I use my devices. Now, to put that into perspective for you guys and gals, that means that I'm pulling down about 6.5 hours of screen on time to 7.5 hours of screen on time. Now, typically, I like to charge my devices whenever they hit 20%, 15%, or 10%. I don't really like to push my devices into the single-digit percentages left because that really takes a toll on the overall battery that are in these devices. And these devices, when it comes to the battery, it's not an easily replaceable component. So you do have to exercise caution with your smart devices if you want to increase their overall longevity. One of the ways I do that is I try to refrain from breaking into the single-digit percentages left on my smart devices. So, another thing I want to point out, however, is that I am able to get about 8 hours and onwards of screen on time with both of these devices by pushing them into the single-digit percentages left. But just given the preference, I would prefer not to do that, but sometimes you can't quite make it to a charger, so it happens. It's going to happen to all of us at least once. We don't make it to the charger, the phone may die. You may have to turn on power saving mode, which is something that I absolutely can't stand. I don't like to hinder the performance of my devices in any way. But it's there if you want to use it. Okay? So that pretty much goes over the battery life. It's pretty much a tie across the board with either of these devices. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is the overall charge times of both of these devices. Before we do that, I want to again point out that the two main things that y'all need to keep in mind when we talk about charge times is the overall screen resolution, because that's a big power draw. So again, 2960 by 1440p 2K display, and another one, a 2880 by 1440p 2K display. 5.8 inches, 6 inches. I want y'all to keep that in mind. Now, and again, another thing is the battery sizes. 3000 milliamps, 3300 milliamps, okay? Now, just so we got that clear, let's now talk about my results. Now, I've found that these devices pretty much charge very similarly, but the LG does take the W in the charging department because it charges about 5 to 10 minutes faster than the Samsung Galaxy S8. So on average with the LG V30, I found that it takes about an hour and a half to an hour and 50 minutes to reach a full charge, depending on what percentage I put the device on the charger at. Now, if I don't charge to full with the V30, then it takes about 30 minutes to 50 minutes, depending on the percentage that I'm trying to make it to. Now, talking about the charge times on the S8, it takes about an hour and 50 minutes to 2 hours to reach a full charge. Okay? Again, if you're not charging the full, then it's going to take about an hour and 30 minutes, not an hour and 30 minutes, about 30 minutes to 50 minutes to get to your desired percentage. Again, Samsung Adaptive Quick Charge is on board on the S8, and Qualcomm Quick Charge 3.0 is on board on the LG V30, and they both support USB Type-C. Okay? Just want to point that out. Alright, now moving on, both of these devices do support wireless charging, and they both support fast wireless charging as well. And I gotta say, through my testing, they line up about the same, give or take about 15 or 10 minutes. So on average, when you're wirelessly charging, the S8 takes about 3.5 hours to 4 hours to reach a full charge. Again, your results may vary based on the percentage that you put the device on the charger at. Same thing for the LG V30. 3.5 hours to 4 hours to reach a full charge. Alright? Good. Okay, so that pretty much goes over the charging times and the overall battery life. So who wins what? The overall battery life is a tie. The overall charging times, I'm going to have to give the slight edge to wired charging to the V30. So that's a W for wired charging on the V30, and a tie for wireless charging between both. Alright, now we've reached the end of the video, and this is where I want to talk about the price and give you guys and gals my final thoughts and a recommendation or two. So you've made it to the end. Great job. Let's get into this last and probably the most important category of this versus/comparison video. Now, before I talk about the prices that I was able to find these devices at, I want to let y'all know, in the interest of full disclosure, just how I came across both of these devices. Now, the Samsung Galaxy S8 that y'all see in this video, I did pick up via Amazon through the Amazon payment program, okay? Alright, so just so we're clear, I paid 5 payments of $100 a month for 5 months, and that came up to roughly $535 after tax, okay? And this is a globally unlocked variant of the Samsung Galaxy S8. Whereas I did a trade for the LG V30 that you guys and gals see in this video, and this is the T-Mobile variant. So the LG V30 I picked up for absolutely free. I traded my Xiaomi Mi A2 Lite. Okay? That being said, I did a ton of research and I was able to find these two devices for roughly the same price depending on where you go. So I was able to find them for the exact same configurations. And the funny thing is, even if you go with the plus variant of the V30, it's still the same price. So that was very funny. Now, if you pick it up used or refurbished or used like new, you can save a little bit more money. If you pick it up brand new, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. So let's get into these prices. Now, used, new, refurbished, or used like new, these two devices ranged in price anywhere from $190 to $300. The sweet spot that I found between both of these was $250 to $280. Those were the best prices that I found for refurbished and used like new versions of these two devices. And those are some really good prices in my opinion. That being said, if you want to pick up either of these two devices brand new, it's going to run you anywhere from $400 to $500. You can get it directly from LG or you can get it directly from Samsung, and that's what it's going to be depending on the time that you go onto those particular sites, because they're always running promotions. Alright, so that's the prices between the two. So, recommendation time. Which device would I recommend you pick up if you were trying to decide between these two devices? Whew, guys, man, I got to keep it 100 with y'all. This was a tough decision, and for me, it really came down to one thing and one thing only that gave the device I'm about to name the slight edge over the other device. So which device would I recommend if you're looking at the Samsung Galaxy S8 or the LG V30? Well, I'm going to have to recommend the Samsung Galaxy S8. And that's for a few reasons. But the primary reason being the software and the overall user interface. The Samsung software and the Samsung user interface, in my opinion, is easier to use. You get more features and it's more user friendly. And I want y'all to think about this the next time y'all are thinking about picking up a device. I want you to think about just what you interact with when you use your smart devices. Whether you listen to a lot of music, so you need that headphone jack, or maybe you are on social media often, so you need something that's very zippy and it can hold a lot of things in memory. Or maybe you consume a lot of media, Hulu, Netflix, Pandora, you name it. What are the things that you interact with on your device the most? And for me, I realized that was three things. Number one, the display. Okay, this is why I feel all the devices need to have a quality display. I don't really care about the resolution. It just needs to be a quality panel that works the way it's supposed to. Number two, the security and authentication method. So fingerprint scanner, face unlock, you name it. And number three, and keep in mind this whole video is based in my opinion, the software and or the user interface. Okay? So, based on that, I would have to recommend the Samsung Galaxy S8 over the LG V30. Again, if the prices are the same or extremely close, just go with the S8. That being said, at the end of the day, the final decision is your own, and you got to decide which device you think you're going to be able to take best advantage of. Other than that, if you're okay with loading up a different launcher or theming out the device, then I would probably say go with the LG V30. It's a lot more versatile. But if you're not going to throw another launcher on it or theme it out to your heart's content, you're just going to load up your apps and use the stock interface and stock launcher, then I feel like you'll have a much more enjoyable time using the Samsung Galaxy S8. Alright, that pretty much brings an end to this versus/comparison video. I hope you guys and gals enjoyed the video and or found it helpful in any way, shape, form, or fashion. If y'all did find the video helpful and or enjoyed it, please help your boy out and give the video a thumbs up. That really does help me out. You don't know how much. If you want to see more content like this, please feel free to hit the subscribe button down below and click off the notification bell icon right next to it so you guys and gals get notified when I publish new videos. Now, if this video piqued your interest and you'd like to know where you can pick up these two devices at some really great prices and or the recommended tempered glass, screen protectors, micro SD cards, so on and so forth, or you would like a more in-depth look at some other aspects of either of these devices, all the links to the cases, screen protectors, camera samples, photo samples, full review, so on and so forth, and the devices at some really great prices will be available down below in the video description. So, if your interest is piqued, down below in the video description should be like a one-stop shop for you guys and gals, and you should be good to go. That being said, I hope everyone enjoyed this video, and I hope everyone has a great evening. This whole video was recorded using the rear-facing 12-megapixel sensor on the Moto G7 in 720p at 30 frames per second. And please let me know what y'all think of the overall quality and the overall audio quality as well, because there was no microphone hooked up in the recording of this video this evening. So everything y'all are seeing and hearing are coming directly off of the Moto G7 itself. Alright, so please let me know what y'all think of the overall audio and video quality down below in the comments. I do want to apologize because I know the lighting is not the best this evening, but I was doing a lot and the inspiration hit me to just get this video done. So, you know, when I feel like I got everything handled, it's time to push record and get it in. So I do want to apologize for the lighting. That being said, I hope everyone has a great evening, and I'll catch you guys and gals in my next video. And for your convenience, the whole video will be timestamped. So feel free to jump around to the portions of the video that you'd like to know more about. I always do this. If my videos run more than 35 to 45 minutes, then they will always be time-coded or time-stamped for convenience. Alright, I'm out of here. Have a good evening. Peace.